What's up, guys? Jeff Nelson here at slapatabass.com. Welcome back for the weekly music theory lesson. This week we're going to talk about key signatures and the circle of fifths, or the circle of fourths as some call it. Now this can get rather confusing for some people, so I'm going to try to break this down piece by piece so you guys can digest it as easily as possible. So let's start from the beginning. So we've already talked about what sharps are and what flats are. A flat is where we lower the pitch a half step, and the sharp is where we raise the pitch a half step. So combining what we learned about the staff last week and what we're going to learn about sharps and flats this week, we're going to be able to create key signatures. So all a key signature is really is a set of sharps or flats that go with a particular set of notes. So if I hear somebody say we're going to play something in the key of B flat major, I automatically know that the root note of the scale is going to be a B flat. I also know that the key has two flats, and I'm going to show you guys how I know that, and I'm going to teach you guys how to figure it out for yourself as well. So let's dive into the circle of fifths. So if you look at the top of the circle of fifths, you'll see the key of C. That's because this key is going to be our bass key because there are no sharps or no flats in the key of C. It's all natural notes. So what I mean by that, I mean all notes that have no sharps or flats. So let's just play the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. See, in those notes I said nothing about B flat or D flat or C sharp or anything. That's because there are no sharps or flats in the key of C. When we start adding flats or sharps, things get a little bit trickier. Okay, so what we're going to want to learn is the order of flats and the order of sharps. The order of flats is B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat. I know that sounds like a lot to remember, but there's a really easy way to remember that. It's the word BEAD, B-E-A-D, followed by the letters G-C-F. So if you remember BEAD, G-C-F, you remember the order of flats every time. And the order of sharps is simply the order of flats in reverse. So it would be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp. And I know that also sounds complicated if you're a beginner, but just remember your B-E-A-D-G-C-F and write that down backwards. Learn that forwards and backwards, inside and out, and it will make figuring out the circle of fifths much, much easier. And why am I spending so much time talking about B-E-A-D-G-C-F and that particular order of notes? Well, if you look around the edges of the circle of fifths, or circle of fourths as some call it, you'll see that all the key names are arranged in that order, as well as the sharps and the flats. If you look right at the top of the circle of fifths, you'll see the key of C, and we know already that that has no sharps or flats. But I want you to take notice of the two keys next to it. By that I mean the key to the left and the key to the right, which is the key of F and the key of G. And you should notice that those notes follow the same pattern as the B-E-A-D-G-C-F or F-C-G-D-A-E-B that I was talking about before. And why is that? Well, it's because it's all arranged in fourths and fifths. This circle shows you all your closely related keys, as well as all the sharps and flats in them and how they're dispersed. Now I want you to notice going around the circle on the flat side, we add one flat each time. And we start with B flat, just like I told you, and go to E flat, A, D, G, C, F, and so on. But what I also want you to notice is look at the key names going that way. You'll see immediately after the key of F, it just starts off B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, following that same pattern. So let's go around the flat side and let's get oriented with each one of these keys. We have the key of F first on the flat side, and that has one flat, and that's a B flat. It sounds like this if you play the scale. Alright, then let's add another flat. So we'll have B flat and E flat in the key, and that's going to be the key of B flat. So if you can remember the order of flats, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and you can remember that F is the key that only has one flat, then it's pretty easy to figure out the rest of the flats. In B flat, there are only two flats, that is B flat and E flat. So how do we know that it only has two flats? Well, an easy trick that I've learned to figure this stuff out is you take the key name, and that's B flat, right? Well, we use our order of flats, and we simply go to the next flat past the key name. So with B flat, you say, okay, we're going to use B flat, and then what's the next flat? E flat. So we have our key, two flats. Now let's add one more flat. So we'll have B flat, E flat, and A flat. Can you tell me what key that'll be? Well, using the trick I just showed you, all you have to do is look at the next to last flat, and that's the key name. So if we have B flat, E flat, and A flat, the key is going to be E flat. And this is the E flat major scale. So if we just keep going around and using that technique, all right, four flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. What key is that? A flat. Five flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. D flat is the key there. Six flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. G flat is the key there. See how it works? And when you get to the key of C flat, which is seven flats, that's going to be your final flat key. So if we want to add any more flats than that, we're going into double flats, and that's way beyond the scope of this lesson. Now let's go to the sharp side. On the sharps side of the circle of fifths, you should notice that the key of G only has one sharp. Now there is also a very simple trick to find out what key you're in when you're adding sharps too. But you have to remember the order B, E, A, D, G, C, F in reverse this time. So it's going to be F, C, G, D, A, E, B is going to be the order of sharps. So if F sharp is the only sharp in the key of G, and it's only a half step away from G, let's just see if that'll work on the next key. So the next key is D, and it has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So C sharp is right here, and our key is D. So yes, it does work. It's only a half step up from our last sharp. So remember that. That works for all the sharp keys. So let's keep going with it. Three sharps. That would be F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And we know that a half step up from G sharp is a A. So that is the key of A. So let's add four sharps now. That makes it F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. Well, D sharp is here, and one half step up from that is an E. So that's the key of E. Let's add another sharp, so that'll make it five sharps now. We'll have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp. And A sharp is here. A half step up from A sharp is B. So that's the key of B. So let's add another sharp now, make it six sharps. That'd be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp. So an E sharp is actually an F, and one half step up from that would be an F sharp. So it's the key of F sharp. So now let's add one more sharp, which will make it seven sharps. So that'll be the last sharp we can add on the sharp side without going into double sharps. So that will be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp. And B sharp is a C. So a half step up from C is a C sharp. So it's the key of C sharp. now that we've went over all the keys on the circle of fifths on both the sharp and the flat side, we need to understand that these are just the major keys. Each one of these major keys has a relative minor key, and I'll show you guys in a couple of weeks how to find all of those. It's actually really easy. Another thing that I want you guys to understand is that some of these keys technically are the same set of notes. For instance, F sharp is the same as G flat, or C sharp is the same as D flat, note-wise. Depending on the piece of music you're playing and what key it's already in, if you have a key change, you would rather use G flat instead of F sharp because it's easier to remember the flats. Or if you have a bunch of string players, for instance, who like sharps better than flats, you might want to use the F sharp instead. And the opposite is actually true for most brass players and concert band players. They prefer flats over sharps. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow the link in the description, and remember to slap at a bass.